to do with rats in the compost?
Oh yes, yes. I get rats in the bee shed.
Get a cat? I have 3 cats and I never have any problems with rats or mice.
Yes, yes.
Well, occasionally, yes, it has to be said, I'm afraid.
I'm afraid I put poison down because I want it to be done. And they come in the autumn, the rats come in from the field willy-nilly and find somewhere nice to live. And so you've got to deal with them. And if you don't keep chickens, the county council will come and deal with rats free of charge. But if you keep chickens, they won't, because you know, you're sort of encouraging them.
Yes, there's a sort of addition to this, which is that the neighbour keeps chickens, evidently. The lady that's got the problem, so that's possibly what's attracting them, isn't it?
The other thing is, if you keep turning the compost, isn't it? Then they don't have this lovely warm house with all their burrows in it. And I know it's one of the things we should always be doing, isn't it? Turning our compost from heap to heap.
Yeah.
And I know I get behind time.
Do you turn yours?
I try to.
I don't turn mine at all.
No.
I build it, and then when it's full, I stop, and I build another one, because I've got 2 places side by side.
Yes.
And by the time this next one's nearly full, which is now, the first lot is rotted enough to go on the garden.
What, the whole lot?
Yep.
Really?
I chop it up. I chop it as I get it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it gets everything in it. I mean, all weeds and all lawn mowings and kitchen waste.
Yes.
Not cooked kitchen waste, but.
No, well, I do turn up. Well, not always as regularly as I would like to.
Well, I've got a different system, which is a sort of halfway house between the 2.
Yeah.
And I've got as an ancient relic, I've got some of the green plastic Daleks that the various municipal authorities were dishing out over the years, and it's quite difficult to. And I also garden on a bed system, and I've never really found a satisfactory location for my compost bins. So I rotate them around, and they're quite often they're on a bed that I'm keeping fallow, and so I'm trying to avoid having to move the compost too far in the garden, in an effort to deal with the turning issue, because I was finding that it wasn't rotting down around the edges where they tend to dry out. I acquired this marvellous device, which is an Australian invention called a compost mate, which I got from the Wiggly Wigglers website, which is like a giant corkscrew for the compost, and it means that you can aerate your compost just a little bit if you're passing and feel that way inclined, without having to go through the whole rigmarole of turning it from one heap into another, which can end up taking half a day.
If you have rats in your garden, I imagine that we all have, really. That's what they say, don't they? That the rats within a few yards of all of us everywhere. Is it something from a health point of view that we should be worrying about, or do we let them prance around like squirrels and hedgehogs?
I have absolutely no idea about that one, I'm afraid.
No, I don't think they are.
I don't think they have bubonic plague anymore, do they?
Well, I haven't heard of any cases. I was thinking there might be a bit of a nuisance if they're eating your crops. That's the only reason I can think of.
Well, and eggs, if you've got chickens and things like this, isn't it? Yes. I mean, they're everywhere, aren't they? I just think if you're seeing them during the daytime, then perhaps it's the population's getting a bit fine. But I mean, yes, night time they'll be everywhere.
I've had a rat in my compost heap, and they do help to.
Is it turning the compost? Tunneling through and aerating it.
The house, and they have I've seen a couple of them, so I did.
They do the job of 10 worms, probably, don't they? Yeah.
They're probably eating the worms, though, are they?
Yeah. By not turning your compost, you also miss the treat of looking at all those worms wriggling about.
They'll still be there when I turn it out.
Yeah,
I mean, the pink worms are absolutely stiff in it by the end.
Oh,
And these are 2 brick-built ones. I have a boat builder son, and when we moved into our house, there were a lot of bricks and a chicken run. Because he's a boat builder, they're slightly curved. and he did the bricks so that there's plenty of air coming through the sides, and plenty of rat holes coming through the sides as well.
Due to the weed killer which is put on fields and things, I've really turned against it, you're not certain that it's going to be okay. So I want another manure for my potatoes, shall we say, as a start. I do grow comfrey, and I really wonder, does comfrey have to be wilted when you use it? Is it just sufficient just to cut it and use it?
I think you can do that, don't you?
Yeah.
It's
Sure
perfectly
you
all right
can.
to just cut it.
Yeah.
That's often recommended.
It's chopped up a little bit. Yes, yes,
I mean,
yes.
sort of into the summer, you probably lay it down and let it brown off. For a
Yeah.
while. Calcified seaweed has always been a good potato fertiliser, but one variety I like to grow is Desiree, and I do get a bit of scab with them. You know, they're not too bad, but it spoils the look of them sometimes. And scab is caused also, I know stony ground, but also lime can cause it. Well, calcified seaweed is slightly lime, isn't it?
As a substitute for your animal manure, have you considered using, because you can now buy in the product of all those green wheelie compost bins that certainly we have in the Forest of Dean where I am. So where they rot down all the collected composting material, you can now buy this stuff quite cheaply.
Well,
I think I haven't introduced it to my garden because I know everything that goes into the everything that goes into the wheelie bin is the stuff that nobody wants on their compost heap, isn't it? But but I know a lot of people that have used it with great success.
Yeah. Do you know you haven't got clubroot in it? I mean,
Well, it gets heated to quite a high.
It does. They guarantee that it's got nothing, don't they?
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
used it, but for the same reason as the
that sort
doubt.
of stuff you can get down at the tip.
Yes, you can buy a bag of it for £1 or something, can't you?
Yeah.
How much? £2.
I know some friends who garden on a fairly large scale using the no-dig method, and they swear by it. They get it delivered by the trailer load, and they have fantastic vegetables and produce from it.
No, that's a good advertisement for it, yes.
So, but they've only been doing it for about 3 years, I think. So, I'm still erring on the side of caution personally.
Do you know if they actually steam treat it or anything? Do they make any effort to see that it's not?
I think it just gets to such a high temperature itself in the compost process.
Yeah.
It gets screened. I know it gets screened.
Pretty safe.
I don't imagine that it's highly nutritious. I think you
No,
would need to.
I mean, the other thing is to add in a bit of leaf mould.
Yeah.
Again, as a soil improver.
As a soil improver,
Yeah.
yes, won't contain. But it is worrying that the straw pollution, isn't it? It's it was last year that all came.
Yes, I've had 3 lots. One which I collected myself, and some which was given to me.
Yes.
And
were you affected by it?
I've had, yes, well, tomatoes really. I filled my greenhouse with somebody gave me.
Yeah.
All my tomatoes were right off.
And that had come from a farm that had used the
chemical by somebody licensed somewhere. I don't
Right.
know what the firm was.
Right.
But somebody had a trailer load and said, "Would you like some?" And I said, "Yes, please."
Yes.
Put it underneath my tomatoes, dug up the bed and the
Oh
green.
dear.
And what did they get?
We collected. Sorry.
What was the problem with the tomatoes?
It's a weed killer which is used on the fields.
Yes, but did the tomato whole plant die, or did it get?
It shrivels up and goes.
Really?
And the ends of the leaves all. Go
It affects all the solanacea, doesn't it? The clubbers, potatoes as well. They're the most susceptible.
They
I
also
think.
say that it could be in the ground for up to about 3 years.
It's very persistent.
So the soil needs to be out of,